So it should be recording now.
Yeah,
So,
it says recording.
so
Oh,
first
yeah.
thing I'm going to say is, hello, how you two doing?
Hey, we're
Hey,
doing
we're
good.
doing good.
Doing very good. Well, thank you for taking the time for recording with me, and I was really looking forward to doing this live, but unfortunately, under the circumstances, not only just to drive, I know y'all would be willing to drive out, but with COVID and everything, you want to keep it as safe as possible.
Yep.
Mhm.
Yeah. So, talked to you too before about what I was trying to do. So
Mhm.
this is an attempt to have engaging conversations with people with who are like-minded, who are not like-minded, faith and other things. And one of the things I know that my wife and I always talked about before I even became a pastor of a church is to make sure that we have real conversations in the pulpit, making sure that the Bible is always relevant, but also as we talk to people outside of the church, how do we engage those people? People who are inside the church, how do we engage with them? But just to have conversations that I always wanted to have, and hopefully to have with other people to just, you know, flesh out things and understand where they're coming from.
Okay.
Good.
Yep.
Yeah.
So introduce yourselves.
I'm
Go
gonna go
ahead.
first. Okay. Well, I'm Tierra.
Mm-hmm.
I'm Malik
Okay.
with the Blake's family.
Mhm.
The
Yeah.
Blake's family on the south side of Chicago.
Yep.
Yeah.
We have been married since July of last year.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
We had a COVID wedding.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we were married by yours truly.
Yeah, I was gonna say I was there.
Yeah. And it
Uh-huh.
was a beautiful experience. It was definitely different, but it was beautiful. It
Yeah.
was fun. It was all of that stuff. It was the best time of my life.
All
So
right.
Oh,
yeah.
It
that's
was it was
sweet.
really nice. Um, and I'm gonna say this before we even get started with like overall questions and things like that. One thing I noticed, out of I've married three couples, including yourselves, and my wife said this all the time. When we first had our first conversation with you two, we were like, they're ready. They're definitely ready. And it had nothing to do with your infatuation with one another. It was just the matureness of the conversation, the type of conversations that you've already had with one another. There was no doubt in my mind that you two were
Thank you.
ready.
Yeah. We've been together almost 6 years
Yeah,
now.
almost six
We
years now.
we're both 25. We met when we were was it
19.
19?
Yep.
Yeah.
We both met when we were 19. Still trying
Mm-hmm.
to figure out what we were gonna do and all that stuff, figuring out life.
Mm-hmm.
We kind of grew up together.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Some stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Oh man, that
This was
has
a question. We're going back to the age, right?
uh-huh.
25-year-olds. Last thing on a 25-year-old's mind is marriage. I would think at 25, I may have been thinking about marriage, but not, maybe nowadays, so not so much. People just want to be single.
Mm-hmm.
They just want to kick it. You know, you know. Um,
Yeah.
even it's just like we could stay together and just be cool. What made you to just say, yeah, we want to be married? But and let me add on to that with everything that's going on as far as you look at people's marriage failed marriages. You look at the ideal once again of you just being able to just hang out, not and not doing it, you can be in love and still stay in the same house. You don't have to do all that. You hear that from everybody, but what made you to, despite all of that, want to just be married together?
Yeah. So I think one of the biggest parts for us together was that just seeing like our upbringing, like some people in our family were married, some were divorced, and seeing a variety of different relationships. And we just knew that we wanted to be with each other forever.
Mhm.
And it, we went through a lot with each other because we were still young when we got together. So we learned a lot with each other, and we grew together individually and as a couple. And it's just that feeling of, I know this is the person I'm supposed to be with.
Mhm.
And I can, people want to take trips by themselves and be single and do different things, but we know we want to do all those things together.
Right.
And it just seemed like the best option. And we knew we wanted to be married to the one that we wanted to be with for the rest of our lives, not just getting married to get married.
Yeah, I agree. I would say just thinking of life itself is just I mean, honestly, and we've had conversations about this a lot. I look at life maybe a little bit different than everybody else.
Mhm.
And like, you have to make, it's like playing chess.
Mhm.
And, being able to look at yourself, like us at the, being young at the beginning stages, you
Mhm.
know, on the fresh board, and you look at somebody that's, further in the game,
Mhm.
you see, the quality of life. And I mean, that shows a lot. So you just, just like she said, we have a lot of people in our family that, we saw go through marriage and go out of it, and just so many things. And it was just like, it just made sense to not just find somebody to marry, but to find a life partner. Life is a lot easier when you got somebody next to you, because it may be a time when she's down and I got to pick her up, and when I'm down and she can pick me up. And if we both down, we can figure out how to pick each other up. And it's just that simple. It doesn't make sense to be in it alone if you don't have to.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Right.
Thank
Mhm.
you.
And let's take a little, just like almost a little bit of step back. Like, how did you two meet?
Oh, that's the good stuff.
So we so I saw Tierra first, right? I had a roommate at the time, and he was like, basically, it was like peer pressure, right? He was like, look, man, because I didn't have a girlfriend or anything. He kept telling me, get on Tinder,
Mhm.
right? At first, I was like, no, I don't want to do it. And then I was finally like, okay, I'm gonna just do it so he can shut up, right?
Mhm.
So he was like, just do it, just 5 minutes a day. Just get on there and just, swipe.
Mhm.
And I was like, whatever. So I did it a couple times. And one day I saw her, and that was like probably like, I mean, it had to be like the last day, because I don't even remember getting back on Tinder. Like, even, after I met her, it took a while. I mean, not met her, but saw her, because it took a while for her to respond. But when she did, I don't know. It, like, when I saw her, it was like love at first sight. I saw her, I was just like, oh, okay. I could delete the app now. It worked. So I found her on Tinder, and I sent her a message, and we started talking, and I don't know how long it was after that. We went on our first date, and
Yeah, it was like a couple weeks or something like that.
yeah, and it was just, here we are 6 years
Inseparable ever
later.
since.
inseparable ever since.
Yeah.
Right.
We spent like every day with each other for like a week after we first met.
Mm-hmm.
We went,
Yeah.
he was doing like work stuff, and I would go with him early in the morning.
Yeah, I was doing like roadside assistance. So I was driving around working, and
Mm-hmm.
she would just be with me, filling out my paperwork and everything.
Yeah.
And yeah, it
Oh,
just
you're a co-pilot and helping doing the job, huh?
Sure
yeah,
was. I was doing the books and everything.
yeah. And I mean, I guess you could say that kind of, stuck with us because now we're two investment properties in. So
And we're gonna get to that later because I think when we talk about future goals and everything like that, I think that's very, um, man, that's important as far as when, couples setting goals, and not only just setting goals, you're setting them together. It's
yeah,
no problem having individual goals, but when you're doing something together, rather it's entrepreneurial or it's something like that, I think it's very important. So, but yeah, one thing I was going to say, kind of take a step back. You mentioned, finding each other online, and sometimes, I guess, not so much anymore. That used to be so taboo, right? And this is a no. You don't meet anybody online, but there's so many people who do that, and we see here, hopefully Tinder give us some money for recording this.
yeah.
Or give us something. It's just been sponsored by nobody at this time, but there are ways where people who do meet each other outside of the normal spaces, and now that the computer is our normal, and especially now with COVID, right? I'm sure that there's a lot of people.
Yeah.
I was thinking the other day, I said, how interesting would it be? You're trying to meet somebody for the first time and you have no idea, of course sometimes we're eye people. I don't know what the person looks like because, the whole mask is over their
Yeah.
face.
Yeah.
But you guys met at a good time. So, but what was I guess, what were you attracted to? What was the attraction? Um, what pulled you two together? I mean, you talked about, you couldn't just, be around each other. You had to be around each other all the time when you first met. But what was that thing that attracted to him, and what attracted you to her?
Yeah, for me, it was his intellect and the deep conversations that we had. Because we just talked about everything under the sun. Like we talked about our goals, what we wanted to do. I think we even talked about like our families and things, and like our family dynamic, and like what we wanted to do. And the things that we talked about is what we're doing now, which is amazing because some of that stuff, those conversations we had worked and made sense. And I think that was my major thing. He was handsome too, but
Thank you.
he's handsome. He's very
And
handsome. I'm
she's
very
beautiful.
happy.
Uh-huh.
But it was really his intellect because of like the things he asked me, and it was just like I've never had someone really just ask me the questions that he had, like what do you want to do, and like if you wanted a business, what would you want to do? And I never really thought about having a business really until I met him.
Mm-hmm.
Like really putting the groundwork to even do it. Like I had dreams about it, but when it came to talking to him about it, he was like, "Oh, well, you can do X, Y, and Z, and this is how you can do it." And I never met somebody that could give me answers about that stuff. And it
Mm-hmm.
was like, okay, this can work. I know somebody that can help me do this stuff, and he's game for all my adventures and ideas that I want to pursue.
Mm-hmm.
That's what really made me want to continuously talk to him and get to know
Good.
Yeah, I could say for me, it was the fact that we could have those conversations.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I hadn't done much dating, by that time, but I did enough to know that, you know, at 19, those weren't conversations that were, normal. That wasn't so that was the thing for me. It was just like I could have those conversations with her.
Mm-hmm.
And Anybody that knows Tierra knows that she is different because the love and the care that she has is a whole lot different than a lot of people, especially, just for me, it was just different. It was amazing to see that, that's what really caught me. I mean, she's beautiful. I could talk about that all day. She's amazing. But just the fact that she's so caring and like nurturing and everything is just like perfect to me. It was a no-brainer. It's like, okay, I gotta be around her. I gotta have a future with her.
Mm-hmm.
That's really how I felt from the beginning.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's good.
You get a lot of brownie points today.
That's good. One of the things that I did, you two, this is a good interview, kind of for our church right now and those who follow our church right now. We just went through the book of Ruth. It's kind of this love story of two people, coming together. And couple things that you mentioned is a part of that, and it is the being supportive to one another. Where if you know the story, Boaz is very supportive to Ruth before they're even married.
Yeah. I have some memory of this story.
Yeah.
With a lot of Bible study in school.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know she went off to get the groceries, so
yeah,
we'll wait for her to come back. So this is real life.
Hey, maybe I should go and you should stay. Okay, all right. Let's see. Okay.
We might be able to edit some of this out, but if not, we'll come back. So
yeah, hopefully, you should be able to. If you need help, I can help you with that too.
I appreciate it.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, I could say a couple things. Like I think that just the whole idea of like Tierra and I, being married and everything, it kind of came natural to us. I guess in a sense we were like married before we were married, because just like she said, even the first week, like the first week after we had our first date, we kind of like just molded together so fast, and usually that can be a problem, but I feel like it was the way we came together.
Right.
Excuse me, because we didn't. I don't know. We were focused on. It may sound weird. We were just like focused on having a strong relationship, and that came from seeing so many bad relationships.
Yeah, and it's so interesting when I hear you speak about your wife now and talk about felt that that you were married before you married, but you did something that a lot of young men and young women don't do, is you took your time at the same time. So it's not like y'all met in a week and got married the next week, or we even within a year. You really truly you took your time. We dated for roughly 5 years.
Yeah.
We got to each other, and throughout those various different conversations that you've had, you built and you stabilized a relationship with her. While she's gone, what would you tell, I guess, a young man when entering a relationship? I mean, what to look for? Because of course, let's be real. There's some man, we ain't trying to look for a relationship.
Yeah.
No, And the type of relationships is purely physical, right? And that's all they want, right?
Yeah.
But they're not looking for the extra. You know, they looking at the shape
Yeah.
and everything, but they're not looking at
If
let me build a relationship. Brain, yeah, no, here can I connect with her mentally, spiritually, emotionally? Can I be vulnerable?
But see, that's the thing. That's not something that is even. That's not something that I'm sorry, dog. That's not the vulnerability. That took a long time for me. So to answer your question, I could say for another young man, you need to be able to. You have to find somebody that you can build with, and that's an actual partner. And I know that's kind of like cliche, but the thing is, you got to think about life as in like, okay, I'm not just in it to have, because I can have fun. We can have a whole lot of fun for a while, maybe even a long time. But after a while, that fun is going to get old. You know? And then also, it depends on who you have fun with for it to be fun. Because I say that because you can have relationships with people, you know, you can be in a marriage or in a relationship with somebody, you can go and have all of this fun, or think you're having fun, but you don't really know that person isn't having fun, you know. And that comes into just, you know, being guys, we can sometimes forget about the woman's feelings.
Yeah.
And so to me, it's just like you need to make sure you can care about this person enough to want to know and want to see just, you know, what's going on in her mind, how she's feeling. So you have to really just be able to it's about just, I don't know, just being mature, just being just having like a foresight. Okay, I'll break it down. I guess that was like the difficult answer, but I'll just say you have to be able to think ahead. So when I looked at Tierra, it was like I looked at her and I talked to her, not as if I had her with me right here at this moment, but if I had her with me 50 years from now. That was the thing for me.
I know one of the things I sometimes think about vulnerability is, at least for me, which is truly hard. I think it's hard in any relationship on either side, is vulnerability sometimes look like being able to allow your feelings to be hurt by your loved one and knowing that the person's not hurting your feelings, but rather trying to help you build.
Yep.
So there's times my wife, you know, she may correct me, or she may take a look at something in a different perspective, and I had to come to the conclusion. It may make me mad, right? It may make me upset, maybe getting all in my feelings, right?
Yeah.
But when you look at the answer, especially when she's right, it is, man, it hurts, but it's right. And can I then shift to make those corrections, or be able to look at it in that way?
Yeah. I think just, I don't know, being especially right now, being a guy, like for our generation, vulnerability is a weird thing, you know, because.
And let me stop you there. I don't think it's just your generation. I think it's many generations. I think I think we touched a little bit about this when we were doing you know, the spiritual, if we want to call it counseling or um, advice prior to your marriage, is I think that's the hardest part of um, one of the hardest parts
Mm-hmm.
of just a relationship, of being able to let the guard down,
Yeah.
because you got to totally trust that person
Mm-hmm.
that they're not going to purposely hurt your feelings, right?
Mhm.
And then on that receiving end, when you have that person who's vulnerable to you,
Mm-hmm.
you have to be very careful at the same time. At the same time, there's sometimes you have to be a little hard, just like they're not hearing it, so I'm gonna have to give it to you the hard way.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you have to know it's just like there's boundaries I cannot cross, otherwise that person may not open up to me again, or it becomes into the point where this is not me trying to help. It could almost step into that abusive lane of like where I'm overstepping the bounds of what
Yeah.
our relationship should be.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and that's where the fear and the reality steps in. Is the fear, will this person hurt my feelings? For men too,
Mhm.
men and women. So I put this wall up, and then the availability of saying I'm going to drop this wall down, and that person allowing person into my space to give me feedback, because truly when you're married, you're one.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. And you have to be able, you have to be willing to, like you say, be vulnerable, completely open up,
Mhm.
and not, um, I don't know. It's just it's a weird thing because I need just now going through it, just talking about it. It's definitely it's an important part of it, like you say, but it I could see I actually notice like, okay, this is how relationships can go south,
Mhm.
because it takes critical thinking. It takes like some hard thinking and just you got to put your feelings out there on the line, and you just got to have faith that the other person will receive it and you know
Mhm.
just process it the right way.
Yeah, because it's
Mhm.
hard because you want, of course, that person, the other person's supposed to have your best interests at heart. And when you feel like you have it all solved and you have it all figured out,
Mm-hmm.
okay, you have it all figured out, you have your other, the other half telling you, well, maybe you can try it this way or do this different because
Mhm.
you're supposed, that's your partner. And it's like you feel like, oh, okay, I have this.
Do it all by yourself. What do you mean?
Yeah, you feel like you're supposed to do it by yourself. And it's like, okay, I got it. And that's it. And that's not it. And I feel like that was one of the things that we didn't necessarily struggle with, but with things we had to like reanalyze. Cause like we're always pretty good working together. But it's like since we got together young, it's like also we're working together and getting out on our own. So we have to analyze how we feel and our feelings and the things that we want to do with also somebody with you. And it's just kind of like, okay, I got to kind of figure out what I want to do and make sure I'm thinking about myself and that other person and not trying to be selfish. Because when you're young, you're selfish. You don't necessarily try to be,
And
but
when you're old, when you're older, you're selfish.
yeah.
I'm gonna ask this too, and I'm gonna ask a couple. I had a couple other questions, and I'm gonna, we can wrap some things up and just talk through some things, and we'll see how things go. Um, I asked James this question about you're 25, you're a young man, you could be doing so much other than being married. In the mindset, I'm not a woman, so I don't know what's inside of a 25-year-old woman now. But I know what it was to be like a 25-year-old man. But you know, for you, I mean, with where other young ladies are at that age, I don't want to assume that marriage is on the table all the time. Maybe they want something else. Um, um, pushing the idea of total independence, right? Various different other things. What made you just, what was it for you, I guess, that said, not so much me, that's, this is something, I want something else. I want something different, you know, a little bit more traditional, you know? What was it for you?
It was him. I mean,
Uh-huh.
I always wanted to be married. I never really had like a set age range per
Mhm.
se of like when I wanted to be married and things like that. But it was really him, like being around him and the way he treated me and the conversations that we had and just the energy that we both had between each other.
Mhm.
And like this is my best friend
Mhm.
ultimately. And it's like I wouldn't want it any other way than how we did it, even with COVID changing everything and changing our honeymoon and our wedding plans.
Mhm.
Ultimately, it was just the fact that I got to marry my best friend and have all these adventures with him and go through all of this crazy life stuff together with him. That was it. And that's really all I needed.
So let's talk about that and we'll talk about that and we'll probably step back a little bit.
Mhm.
So there's that interesting dilemma, right? You both are set to be married, right?
Mhm.
Um, and the unforeseen happens, the uncontrollable, something that you cannot control, it just comes in your space. COVID happens. And it's during the time, set during the time you were still in it, that you're supposed to be married. I mean, what was that like?
It was rough at first because we were still like when the pandemic first started, we were still wedding planning and we were still trying to figure out like should we just postpone it early so we can make sure we get like our money back for certain things, or should we just have faith that everything is going to turn out the way that we planned. And I think a couple months went past and then we were kind of like, okay, well, even if we do, everything clears up and we do have the wedding that we planned,
Mhm.
how many people are actually going to show up because of everything that's happened, which is understandable. And ultimately, our goal was to get married no matter what, extra stuff we wanted to do would happen or not. It was really important for us to get married because we planned this
Mhm.
and we wanted to. I don't know how to put it. Like we just knew we wanted to be married because we wanted to be with each other forever, and we felt like we were together all these years, and it was just time for us. This was our time
Yeah.
to be married.
It's like it became more about just us and our love more than the actual, like the material portion of being married. So having the perfect venue and having everyone and the right you know decorations and all of that stuff, it was about us being married. It
Hmm.
came to the point of, okay, we just want to get married,
Mhm.
want to have that memory and just experience that with each other. Let's make it happen. And yeah, COVID definitely made it hard. We ended up, we had, I guess it was like three different weddings planned. The first one that was canceled because the venue, canceled everything due to COVID. A lot of businesses shut down. Then we planned to have it on the beach. The beach got shut down.
Hmm.
Then we ended up having it at a restaurant,
Mhm.
and at a family owned restaurant, and that was definitely different. My opinion was this, it's kind of old school because I know of a lot of people that got married in apartments and stuff like that or houses. Um, but it wasn't even about, just what would look good or whatever. It was just we just wanted to be married.
Mhm. is about you too, right? And what you wanted to do. And I could kind of, if you don't mind, I'm going to kind of share what I was going through for you and for myself at the same time. Um, we had already started doing our sessions, and I think at the time we knew this was happening, or we had almost already finished all of our sessions, and COVID came. And I just remember just kind of that feeling, man, I really wanted to marry these two.
Mm.
And I remember the conversation where you're like, well, maybe you guys might just go to the to the judge, to the courthouse. And I had to let myself just go, right? Just, it's not about me, it's about them. At the same time, I was upset, just like, oh man, something I really wanted to do. So of course I was exuberantly excited, but however it happened, the mindset of the two that you two had of being so focused on that goal, I was just like, and I just remember having that conversation with my wife. She's like, they just want to be married. And not just, and I had to say this again, not on a point of, people want to get married all the time. No, it's like, it could have been, we're going to wait until next year, right? Or we until everything is right. Or we can continue to live the life that we're living right now. We're totally fine. And it's just like the thought of, you know what, we're gonna make this official. We're not gonna hold off. We're gonna be together. So
yeah, I think the marriage, like us being married was it was more like I remember I just thought about it. We had conversations of just like, man, I just can't wait to, like I remember telling her I just can't wait to, see you walk down the aisle. I just can't wait to, say my vows to you.
Mm-hmm.
It was things like that. And it wasn't it was more of like just like a dedication type of thing. It was like I just want you to know how dedicated I am.
Mm-hmm.
I want you to know how strong my love is. Like I want to experience this with you, just to solidify everything.
Right. And that is so awesome.
Thank
Like
you.
when you hear him say that, like
That's why I married him. Yeah, it makes sense though. Like because we've had thousands of conversations of us being married and completing all our goals together. And it's like, yeah, we were boyfriend and girlfriend, and he was my fiance and things like that. And it's like, that's all amazing, but it's just a whole nother feeling of, this is my husband and I'm his wife.
Couple questions. So as we went through the sessions, the spiritual advice prior to marriage, what was like, what were your feelings, or what some of the things maybe you had picked up during those sessions?
I think what we really picked up was the like communication and talking about the verses and things that we went over. I feel like that was very helpful because I feel like now we use all of that in our everyday life.
Mm-hmm.
Like especially with giving him the chance to lead,
Mm-hmm.
and me listening,
Mm-hmm.
giving him that chance to take care of our family. I feel like that's always been something that was important to both of us. But just going over it again and you talking to us about it, I feel like that really helped.
Mm-hmm. And I had to respond because I know the first conversation I had with you two prior to going into sessions is, I said, listen, I use the Bible, and there's no other way. And I said, this, what I'm going to teach you is pretty much what I see in the Bible, and encourage you to have that faith, right? To this is the foundation which you can use for your marriage, and this is something that you can always go back to. And as much as, old fashioned from what you just said, allowing the man to lead. What in the world? And we don't mean that in a barbaric way, you
Mhm.
know, at all. And that's not doesn't mean that the husband and wife are equal in status. It's just a role, right? Um, Husbands, love your wife as Christ loves the church, that he is willing to die and sacrifice for. That's leading. Leading doesn't mean I'm the boss and whatever I say goes, right? Leading is willing, showing that I love you so much and care for you so much that I would take my 25-year-old self and take it off the market.
Yeah.
And I mean, but it's more than that, right? In all
Mhm.
side. But
Mhm.
um, what about you, James? What do you overall the sessions? What is something that you like most about them overall?
My experience was a little different just because um I wouldn't be considered like a common churchgoer, but I do know,
Mm-hmm.
some of the word. I guess you can
Mhm.
say like someone might say a Bible verse or something, and I might know it. So I those parts of it, just I knew that religion, I knew that the Bible gives you a great foundation for
Mm-hmm.
a lot of things, especially for marriage. It does. It gives you a good
Mhm.
foundation for life. But
Mm-hmm.
the biggest thing that I learned
Mm-hmm.
came from you and Louise.
Mhm.
Just because I needed to see that. I needed to see this in action.
Mm-hmm.
No, you know, just to get it more in depth, because I think people have like, some people build up a perception of marriage and of life, period, just from media and things like that and whatever somebody tells them. But it's best to see it, in real life,
Right.
live. And that was a big thing for me, just to talk to you guys and to and that was a part of it, just the part about um the wife letting the husband lead and everything.
Mm-hmm.
um it was just all, I don't know, it was like a experience of like, just I don't know how to explain it really. It's hard. It was like a reassurance, like, okay, we started on the right foot, right? But actually coming to sit down and talk to you about marriage, somebody who is married and
Mhm.
can give us a word from the Bible, and just give us advice about that, just to have that, and to know that the things that we've just been doing or thinking organically,
Mm-hmm.
those were on the right path. That was a big help.
Mhm.
And I think what I really love about the Bible is that it has answers,
Hmm.
and it has guidance. Especially when you look at Paul's letters, it gives you rules and it gives you guidance. Um, and you say, as much as I look at the perception, and you say you may look at my wife and I look at, I remember my mother, my father. I look at, I have an aunt and uncle, you know, Uncle Ricky and Aunt Denise, and I look at the love that they have for one another.
Unbreakable bonds.
I mean,
Yeah.
and this is, when you look at successful marriages, that's what everybody goes in. That's what they want.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the conversations that we had also is we kind of revealed the curtain back a little bit and said, and kind of, and I'm telling you and everybody who may be watching, there's stuff that you don't see. You see the smiles, you see the whole handing, the laughter, and all this stuff, but you don't see the conflict.
Yeah.
Um, you don't see when, like right now, we talk about COVID. I mean, there's people who are happily together through this, and there's people who are just like, man, their only escape was going to work every day, and now they're stuck in the home.
The divorce rate went up.
I mean, it's crazy, and I know that every time my wife and I hear of just couples, married couples, breaking apart, getting divorced. I mean, my first reaction is, man, it's so sad to hear, and then at the same time, we kind of, a lot of times we hold our hands as we hear it, because we just say we know that we're not perfect,
Yeah.
and at the same time, it's like, man, we kind of do that self check. Are we doing everything we can to strengthen the marriage, make sure that we're together? Because the facade is right. As Christians, Louise and I are perfect because we're great. We go to church every Sunday, right?
Yeah.
But if we don't practice it, if we don't watch ourselves, and she doesn't know that I love her, and I don't know that she loves me. And we tell each other, if we lose all of this and we have to be in the cars, we're good. We got each other. I know she got my back. I know she got her back. And I think the most frustrating thing in the world to me about her is I cannot find frustration enough to ever be that mad at her. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's like as much frustration that she may have for me, you know what? We always come back together.
Mm-hmm.
And our plan is not to allow those things to interrupt, interject, diminish what we have built and what we're trying to build.
Yeah.
And as you guys come up on year one in a few months,
Yeah.
Yay.
have you two had like those conversations, like how to prepare for those conflicting moments, those harsh times? I mean, um, let's be real, man. Like, not everyone's built for it,
Mm-hmm.
right? Um, and there's nothing wrong with that. There's people who decide to stay single for the rest of life. Sometimes that's the best thing to do. Um, but as you go along this journey, now that you're together, what are your plans to do when there is conflict?
I think a big thing, yeah, I mean, really everybody should focus on it, but it's just communication. Um, we focus on that a lot because I would say we focus on communication, and we both know um what our shortcomings are. So like if we have a disagreement,
Mm-hmm.
I know that okay, I'm not always good at communicating.
Mm-hmm.
I might not always be um, as I don't know, as I don't always communicate the way I need to. And she, you know, is aware of her shortcomings as well. And that helps a lot because it humbles you.
Mm-hmm.
That tells you, okay, I know I'm not perfect. And then, just like you said, no matter what is said, no matter what's going on right now, we are gonna respect our relationship and our bond,
Mhm.
and nothing is gonna make us break that, you know.
Yeah.
And so, no matter, like, you know, we can have disagreements, but it's just like, it's, you know, the attention goes into, okay, how can we fix this? It's
Mhm.
not about oh, I'm just so mad at you, or
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to talk, or whatever. You know, it's just like, okay, let's get to the bottom of this. Let's figure it out. Let's get
Mhm.
this over with so we can go back to being in love.
Yeah.
Right.
You know?
Or we take like breaks and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Or I feel like one of the biggest things that we usually do is like, okay,
Oh,
I
yeah.
may be upset with you, but I love you, but we need to
Yeah.
take a break.
Yeah.
I'm upset, but I'm
That's
just
a
gonna
big
go sit in the other room. I love you. This is all right. We can figure it out when we both are willing to not be the person that's right.
Mhm.
Basically,
That
one.
is,
I feel like that's my thing because I
Yeah.
like to be right, but I'm willing to compromise.
we're always trying to be right. I think you said something really good, Tierra, where um, sometimes people have that perception that we have to fix it right this very second.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But
Mm-hmm.
when I see that look on my wife's face and she see that look on my face, sometimes it's like, you know what? If not tomorrow, next week.
Uh-huh.
this we'll come back to it. There's going to be some resolution, and sometimes it is, you know, whether you want to call it, you know, good or bad, or
Mm-hmm.
things fizzle away. Things that may have not always ultimately resolved. Because again, you're two, as much as you're married, you're one. You're two individuals that sometimes have different outlooks. Like we talk about, I like one of the sessions we talk about hanging the toilet paper, right? One person likes hanging
Yeah.
the toilet paper one way, one person likes hanging the other.
Yeah.
You can fight about it as much as you want. One person might change the other, but sometimes eventually it's just like, you know what? It's hung how it's hung.
Yep.
And as long as
Mm-hmm.
we got toilet paper.
Yep. Yep.
And that was a fight at the beginning of this year, you know? Like,
Oh, man. See, lots of growing.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's a big part of marriage, or just relationships, period. You got to be able to grow
And then a lot of that
together.
stuff you laugh about later on. And it's like, okay, that was silly. We really didn't need to
Mm-hmm.
argue about that.
uh-huh.
But we can laugh about it now.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Um, so when we read through, so we almost read through the whole book of Ephesians. I mean, we read up quite a bit when we came to your house, my wife and I.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
What were your thoughts like as we were reading through that?
You want to go first?
No, go ahead. It looks like you had a good thought.
No, I was still thinking.
Um, like what was going through my head? Well, I really appreciated it. Reading through it, especially with you and Louise there, because all the questions we had,
Mm-hmm.
and you were able to break it down for us so we can understand
Mm-hmm.
the questions we had and understand the whole text. I really appreciate it, and the notes and everything that you gave us. I
Mm-hmm.
feel like that was very helpful because we went back to that a couple times and actually
Yeah.
read over it together and analyzed it and went through it again. And I feel like we use that pretty much every day.
Yeah, honestly, and I don't know if you guys knew how helpful it was. Like, when you have someone give you knowledge like that,
Mm-hmm.
uh, and that type of guidance, you have people that take it for granted,
Mm-hmm.
don't, give it the attention that it needs. But like for us, those types of things, it was almost like a cheat sheet, you know.
Mhm.
We would you know, let's say if we, like she said, we went back to it a couple times. If we had a disagreement, or if we just, you know, we're like if we were in a moment of, okay, let's sit down and let's work on this. Let's talk about something, or let's, you know, let's just try to make our bond even stronger. Those are the things that we go back to, because it's like expert advice, basically,
Mhm.
you know. So it's very helpful. And
Mhm.
in those moments, I mean, I was excited, honestly. Even like the first time we sat down, I was excited because it's like, okay, I'm getting what I need and what I want. Like I'm getting education that I want, that I'm asking for, that I know I need.
Mhm.
I'm getting it right now, and I'm excited because that's, if I don't know about everybody else, but for us to find that type of insight and advice and just the education, that's hard to come by,
Mhm.
because you know, there's a lot of people that they like to give you a lot of advice, but they don't even go by their own advice.
Mhm. And you know, one of the things, and I'm gonna touch on what you just said, James, is I think as Christians, one is that, you know, I definitely am saying still a student
Mhm.
trying to live out the principles that I read upon, right?
Mhm.
And you know, and I kind of point back to, and that's the reason kind of why I pointed towards the Bible. It's like, yeah, you can see us, God forbid, and I don't, not speaking this in the air, what they say, speaking in the universe.
Yeah.
Um, Say if you see Louise and I sometimes falter or slip, I don't, I would hope that you could say, oh yeah, we're praying for them and we're hoping everything works out. But that is not the image that we're looking at. We can always go back to the text,
Mhm.
because ultimately that text is always going to give you the right answers. And you go probably even, I think I even told you, say, hey, you know, Dex, remember that text, Dex and Louis, y'all remember that text that you read to us in Ephesians? Have you applied it lately? um, you know, uh, and are you sure? Are you really trying to live that example? And I think that's those are the things. Like, you can always take the truth of the text,
Mhm.
read it, examine it, and see what is need to be done. And I think that's what we always try to do. You know,
Mhm.
I mean, I'll say people, Christians, especially the ones who are going to church, we all have the same problems. We just know we're just trying to figure out how to get it fixed. And the best place sometimes to go get it fixed is, man, I'm going to the church. I'm going to listen to the sermon. I'm going to read my Bible.
Mhm.
And it's not the fact that, we don't have the same problems. It's like, man, we just know someone who has answers.
Yeah.
And it's not a person who's overly human or anything like that. We know someone who's perfect in all ways. Um, is there, like, as we were going through the sessions, was there anything that you wanted more of, or you thought maybe had been missing, or like if you could do it again, it's like, man, I wish I would have known, like, I wish I would know this answer or something.
I don't think there's anything I would have wanted more out of it, because I feel like you gave us a variety of different tools every time we talked, or even if we needed anything, you would always let us know. We could always reach out if we needed anything.
Mhm.
I don't think so. I thought it was awesome. I think it was very helpful.
Yeah, I can't really think of anything either. I think
Mhm.
it
Yeah.
was more than what I expected, more than what we expected.
Yeah.
So I guess the question is, did I hopefully I challenged you in some spots of, when I say spots, it's not just for the marriage that you were preparing for, but just overall, maybe even that area of faith. Because I think I told you to, my hopes is not only that you would be prepared for marriage, but somehow that the Holy Spirit would get a hold of you just a little bit, and
Yeah,
like
it definitely did.
Mhm.
We appreciate it. It made us look at things that we were doing and how we were communicating, and like, okay, if this isn't working, we feel like we're not fixing things together on our own, then we need to go back to, the text and different things like that, or reach out for you and ask for a different scripture if that was the case too.
Mhm.
And like we tell people all the time, like I know even when we were in it, we were like, yeah, we're doing our counseling today. This is what we're doing today. We're focused on this. And
Mhm.
that was really important to us. And
Mhm.
I feel like that, like having that support from you right before
Mhm.
was awesome. Cause I didn't think, well, did you get cold feet before we got married?
Mhm.
I
I
had hot feet. I was ready.
Yeah. I didn't get cold feet about getting married. I had cold feet about walking down the aisle because everybody's looking at me. But other than that,
She was worried about falling.
oh my goodness. That's all I was worried about getting, but going through all the sessions with you and stuff and talking to him, I wasn't nervous or had cold feet about getting married. That's
Mhm.
one thing wasn't worried about. And I feel like talking to you helped, and talking to him helped, and making sure we were on the same page. Walking down that aisle, that's a whole different story, but that's nothing you can really do about that.
Mhm.
But meeting with you, that was really helpful. And I feel like if we wouldn't have done that, I think maybe we wouldn't have had the conversations we did before we got married.
Mhm.
And that would have been stuff we would have missed out on.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
Mhm. Um, it's gonna be my final two questions, and then I'll let you two ask me questions if you like. We're like, I already know we're over time. Um,
Oh no, it's okay.
okay. Tough one. Actually, no. I ask the easiest question first, and then we'll go to the hard question. Um, so I'm gonna brag on you two a little bit. 25 years old, married, um, two properties. Um, um, I told James a little bit early yesterday. I think, I mean, way ahead of where my mind was, at least at 25.
Mm-hmm.
Um, what are your plans for the future, like overall, and not just financial, um, but just what are your plans?
Lots of good stuff, huh?
Yeah. Of course, kids
Mm-hmm.
living in a comfortable home. Um, and that's a big thing for us now because we live with our tenants, and that's um, you know, special. That's a good way to put it. But that as far as like financially, we don't I don't know. We really just I think a big thing is that we put so much focus on being comfortable and happy in life, you know, that we try to get that part out the way, you know. So we just really just our plans right now are just to have kids, have a comfortable home,
Mm-hmm.
um, and just have fun, travel, and do more things that we like to do rather than things that we feel like we uh have to do that we don't
Mm-hmm.
like to do.
Mhm.
It's true.
Yeah. And I think we both would agree that it's the way. A lot of it has to do with the way you start off. You know,
Mm-hmm.
um,
Because we definitely worked really hard when we were young, and
Mhm.
to get our properties and things like that. So now we're trying to slow down and enjoy it a little bit more than
Mm.
just doing everything all over the place and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But maybe more properties to come.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
More business ventures.
absolutely. And I hope you do, and I think you two are doing things that a lot of people at least want to do, as far as that's concerned, or have tried to do. Um,
Mhm.
so you're definitely ahead, especially. I told, I'll say it again. You have a lot of time, patience, and that's one thing I picked up on something last year. I said, you know, if I were a little bit more patient and allow myself to go through the process,
Mhm.
I'll get there. And it has nothing to do with timing. It just says, it's just like, I know some people are like me, built like me. I could be pulled in so many different directions. And if I say, if I could just stay on this one track and be patient and work on that for a while,
Mm.
I could get it done. Um, I think focus has a lot to do with it, a lot to do with it. And I see that you two are focused, um, which is helpful. Tough question.
Mhm.
Um, where do you find yourself as far as terms of faith now? Like, I'm gonna ask it kind of two different ways. Prior towards when we really sat down, and then where you are at now, and maybe where you may struggle, because we all struggle with faith in some type of way. And when I say faith, not so particularly over believing in a higher power, but I would say more towards Christianity. And no judgment. And
Mhm.
hopefully heard no judgment whatsoever. Want to be as real as possible. Um, I may or may not react to it. I won't promise I won't. But again, no judgment. You know.
I would say together and me individually, I feel like our faith is stronger. I feel like when we were dating, we kind of interacted and talked about it, but not really. And I
Mhm.
feel like the closer we got to getting married, I feel like that's when we talked more about it. And I feel
Kind of
like our
clarify things,
yeah,
basically.
because it was kind of like we talked about it a little bit when we were dating, but it wasn't really talked about as much as I feel like maybe it should have been.
Mhm.
Um, but I feel like now our faith is stronger. I know mine is stronger. I want to talk about both.
Yeah. I think my faith is stronger. Um, I would say as far as I don't know. That's all. It's not like an uncomfortable thing to talk about, but it's just weird because I never really know where to start with that. Um, just with all the things that I think about and I've you know.
And for people who listen, I'll say James and I have a whole probably 2 hours or hour conversation about overall beliefs and stuff like that. We're
Mhm.
cousins, just to get that away. Um, and we come from a unique family background where there's not just Christian faith involved. There's Nation of Islam in our family. There's um, some people who are kind of agnostic in a way. There are those who are Hebrew Israelite. So there's a really mixed bag. So I'm not answering from you from the lens of from people who come from a family like that. It's not so much a negative thing. I wouldn't say at all it is, but it gives you a perspective on what people believe and why people believe certain things.
Yeah. I mean, if I could give, if I could talk about it for a couple minutes, I would just say that, with religion and everything, with all of that comes from our family, a lot of it is knowledge. So like you just learn so many different things about so many different religions and so many different, just ways of life. And that's where the confusion comes in because of the things that I learned, I guess I could say, not some, I mean, it's confusion, but it's more of just like, okay, I gotta, really think about these things and, try to process them. So it's always been a little bit, different for me, especially because my family, our family is, of course, a mixed bag of, faith, but also, I went to a Catholic school. I went to a Christian school. It's just so many things. And when you go to those, when you're a part of those places, they put you in whatever they are in, So I did the mass and the chapels and all of that stuff. And I would just say, for as far as like Christianity, it's always been weird to me because, especially I'll say, my teenage and my young adulthood, it's been weird. It's been a weird subject because of the things I've learned about the religion and also about our people, as in African Americans.
Yep, absolutely. I not to cut you off, but that's one of the one of the harshest realities of how we were introduced to faith as an African people.
Yeah.
Who came to the Americas by slavery. We were not introduced into it the most healthy way.
Yeah.
And then I would also say that even when you get past that portion of when you look at through our history, what I call is the orthodoxy versus the orthopraxy, meaning what people truly believe. Like we have people, I'm a person that totally believes in the Bible. Absolutely. I'm 100% in, no errors. You can fight about me later. Fight with me about it later. That's fine. But then and that's the orthodoxy part. Like I'm totally in. I believe the Bible's 100% true. I believe that, Jesus Christ is my savior. He's the only one savior, all of that. But the other part is when I see other people who proclaim that they're Christian, but yet act differently from what the faith says. Like there's no way you can tell me slavery and treating people less than human is a Christian practice.
Yeah, and that's a big part of it for me.
Comes in. I've been struggling, especially within the last year. We saw what happened just a few days on the news with the Capitol. We see what's been going on in our nation, and that's where I struggle to say, like, man, it seems like there's two totally different churches in Christianity, and sometimes that and it's not always the white and the black or the evangelical versus non-evangelical, but it's that the Americanism thing that goes on where this, man, that's a struggle for me.
Even the phrase "God bless America" is kind of weird for me because America is a place that's built on slavery and murder and all of these other things. So it's
right. And I want as I'm going to start wrapping up because we are getting some. I'm gonna let you ask me some questions, but I'm gonna let me respond to that. I just I'm actually this Sunday it'll be posted this next Sunday. I'll be preaching something this Sunday, will be posted next Sunday, and has something to do with Joshua.
Okay.
And always talks about God's ultimate will and how Joshua himself, if you know the story, his three brothers sold him into slavery. He he wanted Potiphar's wife, accused him of I'm sorry, Joseph. Joshua, Joseph. Joseph.
I didn't want to correct you, but I was like, okay, I know the story though.
Coming from the preacher, right? Joseph. But yeah, he says something at the end to his brothers when they think he's going to do payback. He said, "You meant it for evil, but God meant it for good."
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's sometimes God's ultimate will. He allows things to happen to put us in the position to where we need to be, not just for ourselves, but to help other people. And as twisted as what I'm about to say sounds, I truly believe that slavery was part of that mechanism.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely horrifying thing that the Europeans, the Spanish, or whomever did, and they meant it for evil, but God meant it for good. And that's the only way that really makes sense to me. That could be a whole nother conversation. Any questions from me overall?
I'm thinking.
I don't think I have any questions.
Well, I was okay. So I guess the question that I'm thinking of right now. So with everything that we're talking about right now, what do you think that it's something that like, how do you feel about discussing all of this stuff? Like, do you feel that it's a uncomfortable thing to talk about in a church setting, or do you think that and I'm asking this question because I feel like a lot of people kind of avoid it. They avoid this topic. They avoid just talking about all of this stuff.
When you say the stuff, are you meaning matters of faith or marriage and all those
connecting Christianity to slavery, like the origin story of the United States, and how we are here having this conversation.
Yes and no. One is, yes, it's uncomfortable because, again, there's that vulnerability part. You do have to be vulnerable to have conversations, especially when you talk with people who are not on your same thinking path or your background. Last year, I met a new friend. His name is Carl Fay. He's a pastor out in Palatine also. And we did a group of Bible studies called the Uncomfortable Bible Studies, where I brought pretty much my church and he brought his church. Two totally different church. His predominantly white, mine predominantly black. And we had conversations about George Floyd. We talked about police. We talked a little bit about everything. That was kind of got uncomfortable because I had to kind of open up a little on that. But when it comes to matters of faith, and even that, let me just say over matters of faith. When I think about Jesus, there's a pastor by the name of Ralph West who preached this, and I've used it before. If you notice that Jesus Christ always did something on the outside, not so much in the temple. When they looked at Jesus and said, "Look, he's with drunkards and prostitutes." He was on the outside. When he
Yeah.
gave them fishes and loaves, he was on the outside.
Mm-hmm.
Everything he did, almost everything he did was on outside, and I think that's how we engage people. And I think as Christians, that's what we're supposed to do: engage people who are not just inside the church,
Yeah.
but like what as he said, he says, "Do well people need doctors? No, it's the sick people the sick people who do, not just calling people sick, but he's like,
Yeah. I get
if
what
we're truly Christians, we're called to engage the overall culture. People who
you.
like lives, people who don't. Um, and then added to that, being a Christian that is Black, to have conversations with people who especially feel the injustice, who know the history, who know how we've gotten here, who still see fragments
Mm-hmm.
of, especially people who call them somewhat Christians, but yet still do very insensitive things, whether they have knowledge or not. You know, to have answers for those sometimes can be tough conversations. To say, in my matters of faith, what, how do I settle that in my mind?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I go back to that. I say, if you look at the book, you know, number one is the I always say the book is 100% true, but number two is patriotism. Patriotism, I hope I'm saying that right, does not equal somewhat Christianity. And I mean that is we have this view that some people have this view that the more American we are, the more Christian we are, and I don't believe that. And then there's also some people who have the view that because I'm Black, that makes me more Christian, which is not exactly true either. But when you really look at justice and you really look at equality, and especially in Ephesians, you will see that God has revealed his overall plan that we will all be saved. And then even in Ephesians, Paul talks about this wall that he breaks down, the separating walls from back then it was the Jews and the Gentiles that he demolished so that they could all integrate and be under one name, which is Christian. And
Mm-hmm.
I say that is the hope that we look for.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, we always are gonna. I mean, people just like who are not going to put God first or whatever are going to always have this conflict of butting heads, rather it's Black or white. I'm Baptist, you Pentecostal, or you're Islam, and this constantly butting their heads.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, I think it truly is Satan at work. It's like, it only makes sense. Like, when we look at slavery, I mean, I don't think it's a wrestle against flesh and blood. I think it's powers and principalities. And that's what
Mm-hmm.
I think, and I'll add to this, and I'll start cutting it down because we're way over. Um, the bitterness that some Black people have in this country, though it may seem sound, I think it slows our progress. Um, and in Martin Luther King's "I Have a Dream" speech, he mentions that. He mentions for us not to be embittered, and
Mm-hmm.
and he may even told what the result of that would be. Um, and I think I think as a Christian people, especially a Christian people, forgiveness goes a long way,
Mm-hmm.
but a lot of conversations need to be held, and a lot of them will be uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I agree with that one.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I um I don't know, it made me think a lot about Like, how do you think like the bitterness will, like, give me an example of how you think it would keep us back.
Oh boy, I'm gonna get in trouble for this one.
I don't want you to get in trouble now.
No. And this is where we got to see almost reality.
Uh-huh.
I'm gonna say two things. Number one is bitterness will always hold us back. It's just like if you've been abused by somebody.
Yeah.
If you always focus on abuse, then you can't move forward.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And I think that's what bitterness is. Um, and we can have, I mean, we could say justly, we can be bitter. I mean, this country has done some things that have been foul,
Yeah.
and there's no way around saying. I mean, there's probably better words to even say that. I mean, this horrible. However, um, I think some people will settle and they will rather be angry than move forward.
Yeah.
That makes
I agree.
Mhm.
I agree.
and there's something now I'll say, and this is the suburban kid talking to some people maybe, and it may be the wrong answer. You know, don't shame me. I don't think, and this is overall. I don't think from the promises that have been made, never fulfilled, that we will ever provided what is due to us,
Mhm.
rather reparations or right treatment. However, there was a generations before us who did so much with very little,
Mhm.
and they were the ones who were chased down with dogs, pushed, with fire hoses, had to sit on the back of the bus. They did so much,
Yeah.
and there's no way you can really tell me with all this technology, with everything, with the bright people that we have in our society for our white counterparts who do care for us and do go out of their ways. I know a lady that goes out to the South Side. Her and her husband and a group of people own a food pantry that they had to do full time now. I mean, there's people who are that don't even look like us. I think with the combination, you cannot tell me that we don't have enough to rather it's compete or new stuff. Granted, I do believe there's definitely been some times in history where I believe I will say they or the government. I'm gonna have to edit some of this out. um,
Oh
um, Purposely put the Black community in bad situations, whether you call them conspiracies or not.
Yeah.
Um, but I think those are all inner workings of Satan. I don't think it's overall a black and white thing. I think it's much deeper than that. Even when we get into politics, Republican and Democrat and various different other things.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, again, I might have to, you might ask me why.
I don't know. I kind of
No,
think
I just truly think it's true. I don't think, I have these conversations with people who are Republican, Democrat, white, and black. And I truly think it's a lot deeper than what we think it is.
I mean,
From what we saw with the Capitol, you know, you know, and we're getting into other stuff that's outside of marriage. But one thing that really irked me, irked me, is when I saw that policeman helping that lady down the stairs.
oh yeah, that was
Saw that.
ridiculous. That
And
was funny to me. It was just like
I was
my
just like, and then I remember the older gentleman who was holding up his sign back in, I believe it was September,
Mm-hmm.
And the police officer just drove right over and cracked his skull open, and you see blood start going on the concrete. This older white gentleman during a different thing, during a different during that protest. And I said, man, this is two different Americas.
Yeah. I think I remember you said something earlier about like patriotism and all of that.
Mm.
And I think people, I don't know if it's just in this country or whatever, but the when you were talking about like people connect patriotism to being like the ultimate Christian, I that doesn't make sense to me, because that would be placing this country, on some type of pedestal as if it's some type of religion or
The
something.
Christian nation, right?
Yeah, and that's one thing that makes things a little iffy and questionable sometimes, because it's like Christians should all be one, and so it's like, somehow it's connected to that. Like, it's like if we okay, if you're a Christian, you're connected to that, or that the people that think like that. But of course, that's not the
I,
way it is. Yeah.
I truly believe that it's a lot, Christianity is a lot bigger. I should be, I believe in the theology of McDonald's. You order a number one from McDonald's, you're going to get a Big Mac, fries, and drink.
Yeah.
You go to one in Texas, you're going to get a Big Mac, fries, and drink. And that's what theology should be.
It
But I
should
think
be,
also, sometimes we box ourselves in saying that this is what Christianity should be. But if I go overseas, it should be the same. It shouldn't have to do anything with patriotism or what we think of American culture. Yes, we have our cultures that somewhat ingrained into us, but overall Christian. That's why I call myself a Christian that is Black. I am a Christian. I put that first, but I also know that I'm Black.
I mean, every religion,
American.
has that issue. Every religion, honestly, and that's that. I mean, that's one thing that kind of puts me in a position I'm in, because no matter what religion you look at, there's no one group, one way to do it. There's no one way of anything, And I think that has something to do with humans and with just man, get like, I guess you could say, ego or whatever, getting in the way of what it really needs to be.
Right.
Yeah.
I could see that. We could wrap this up. I know I'll let Tierra come back. There was definitely a lot we talked about. Maybe talked about a little bit of politics, talked a little bit about everything. But I think, I do have a challenge, kind of to go back to the faith thing for both of you, and for those of you who are going to be listening to this or who are listening. So here is a challenge, I guess, that I would have for both of you, and this is my pastoral slash, hoping that you would be engaged in your faith a little bit more, and help bring that into your marriage. Perhaps if it's not Proverbs or maybe the Gospel of John, I think that would be perhaps start reading that. Maybe that's something that you all can do this year, together. Reading through that, read the easy version if you have to. Call me, give me some questions, but I think that would be something good for all of us. James, I know in church pretty soon. We're going to be starting theology Thursdays pretty soon,
Okay.
going through James. So you're welcome to come to that also.
Okay.
Nice.
But you know, not only just read John, but continue to date even during COVID.
Yeah.
I know you'll do that.
Okay.
Mhm.
Yeah. We definitely are trying to figure out different ways, just be creative.
Mhm.
Uh,
Which has been fun.
yeah. I don't have much of the creative mind when it comes to those things, so I'm learning, but I got a good teacher, so that's good.
No.
That's okay. Louise and I are still figuring it out too.
Yeah, I mean, it's a hard thing.
Yeah,
It's
especially
a
if you gotta
total life
stay at
change.
home.
Yeah.
But we did like we've done game nights, cooking different things,
Yeah.
movies and TV
Honestly,
and
for anybody that's listening, this is is this period of time can definitely teach you how to love one another and be romantic and date and keep the love alive on a cheaper scale. And I think that's a good thing.
Help you budget. And no, even when we were talking about what God does, how he intervenes, and we talked about slavery and things, I think this is also where I believe that God allowed it to happen for some people, because a lot of us can look at it as very negative, but at the same time it's positive, because I've been working from home, and
Mhm.
that cuts my time an hour and a half where I get to spend with my family.
Yeah,
It's a
that's
positive.
good. Yeah.
And there's a lot of people who are like that get to spend more time with their loved ones. There's budget now. I'm praying for all of you who serve people, who serve the hostess and and people who do the waiters and things. We gotta pray for them. We know all the restaurants are closed down and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it has definitely helped our pockets a little bit too.
Yeah.
I
I'm
don't
praying for those
by
people
saying that,
like
but
me that were in
that's
the cable industry and things like that. The essential workers.
yeah.
Some people. I mean, I got laid off actually during COVID.
Yeah, yeah, and yeah, there are. No, I'm definitely praying for you. I remember I saw that that you. Yeah, I remember you shared that.
Yeah, but it wasn't a bad thing. I mean, it was what it was, but it just depends on what you make out of a situation. So it didn't affect us very much in a bad way.
Right.
Yeah. Yep.
Any last words?
I don't have any.
I don't have any either.
I'll just say thank you.
Yeah.
Yes, most
Um,
definitely.
Yeah, we really appreciate all of this, and me knowing you all my life, I never knew that we'd be, having this conversation right now, and you know, you would have married me and done all of these things. So thank you.
Well,
Yeah,
I know I speak for both myself and Louise when I say, sometimes it's cliche to say it, but I think we were blessed by meeting you both. Um,
mm,
as much as you're saying that we probably where we had conversations to help you move forward. I think when we saw you two, you definitely put a spark back in our marriage too.
oh wow,
As much as probably we thought we were giving you spiritual advice, were counseling us at the same time, and it was very helpful to see that. And I think that's the way things should be. As much as we reach out to our Uncle Ricky's and Aunt Denise's and John Gardner's and Doris Gardner's and all those who've had these successful marriages that bloom. We look at those and we say that's what we aspire to be. But at the same time, I'm hoping that the younger generation of America, can feed back into them. So, or the newlywed generations, the younger but newer wed.
Yeah. It's a beautiful thing. Everybody can learn something.
Most definitely.
Yeah.
But let's go ahead and wrap up. Oh, I think we are way over, which it was fun. I told you we could probably be doing this for about 2 hours. We got off subject for a little bit, but
It was fun though.
Yeah.
yeah.
It's good to have these conversations.
Yeah.
Mhm. So on that note, I think I'm going to call this engagements. I think
What?
That's a good one.
Yay! There we go.
not so much that had nothing to do with marriage, but overall engagements with people who are like-minded, non-like-minded overall. Just that we're supposed to be reminded to engage with one another, especially during this time. So thank you, the Blakes family,
Thank you.
for allowing us to have this conversation. And we'll continue to pray for you. We love you. And Second Baptist will be praying for you also.
Thank you. We
Thank
love you.
you.
And
We love
we'll
you
be praying
too.
for y'all too.
All right. Thank you.
All right. Good night.